Please pray with me. God, be in our speaking, be in our listening. May only your word be spoken. May only your word be heard. Amen. I'm Tim Johnson. A lot of you already know that. And as many of you also know, I'm the son of Aaron Johnson, a career speech language pathologist. Let me tell you, it's hard to be raised by an SLP and not fall in love with the emotional impact of language. Hard not to simp for the integral way that the words and expressions we use to communicate to each other can resonate with our minds and souls. Today, I'd like to dive just a little into what makes language so special and why we are making such a big deal of the Gen Z Bible. So at CBEC, our church-wide summer camp, this year I had the delight of teaching the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders along with Adrian Brenner. We had a ton of fun, learning about prayer, singing silly songs, making labyrinths out of molding clay, and generally strengthening our bonds of community. The biggest hit, however, by far, was the discovery of the Gen Z Bible. Ahead of camp, at the youth group leader prep meeting, I joked to Margaret Irabar Swanson, who is not able to be here today, that we should try and get a copy of the Gen Z Bible to bring with us to camp. Unsurprisingly, Pastor Steve was like, bet, and bought both a copy to bring of the Old Testament in Gen Z speak and a copy of the Gospel according to Gen Z. Now, for those of you who are more and more confused each time I keep using the phrase Gen Z, we're talking here about any person who was born from about the year 1996 until about the year 2010. Think people in their mid-20s, college kids, upper teenagers, that sort of thing. So as soon as I introduced the concept of the Gen Z Bible and read the kids a story from it, from the gospel, they couldn't get enough of it. They wanted to read it each day we had class. At one point, we even read 8 stories from the Gospels in a row without doing anything else. I had Rose and Warren coming to me outside of class hours, asking to borrow the Bible to read it on their own. And mind you, this is during CBEC free time when there are many, many other distracting things that they could have done. Wesley, who, again, I don't think the Brenners are here today, but Wesley, who's Adrian's son, even started his own translation of Gen Alpha speak, which is their generation. Wesley, I'm sorry you're not here to tell you this, but I really like a copy of that once you're done translating. Our kids were so enthused to bring this Gen Z Bible to the adults of the camp that they picked out a story from it for me to read to the whole camp at the Wednesday night talent show. I was even asked to read the Gen Z version of the Lord's Prayer during the final worship service. This was a truly holy example of letting the children lead the faith community, a spiritual practice that we are called to follow by Jesus himself. As the week went on, and especially after, I was left to ponder, why was this Bible so captivating for them? What was the reason that it could enthrall them in a way nothing else we taught seemed to? I don't have a definitive answer, sorry. But I can't help but think much of the answer comes down to the language the translation uses. So allow me to eat and leave no crumbs briefly about human language. Language is integral to being humanity. Humans have had language for a long time. likely for 150,000 to 200,000 years. There's actually a genetic component to language production. Mutations in a gene in the human chromosome called FOXP2 that controls facial muscle response allows for more expressive language modalities. This FOXP2 mutation can be used to genetically differentiate humans from our most recent sister species, Neanderthals. And Neanderthals were not believed to have nearly the same level of artistic communication, nor the ability to communicate abstract or complex ideas. That's just us. Linguists have further proven that languages undergo a process of natural evolution, where certain words and terms are changed, mixed, replaced, invented, or deleted from the lexicon of a generation entirely. The advent of virtual communication via the internet has only sped up this process, often creating an entirely new vernacular that is unrecognizable for those not in the chat. So why am I bothering telling you all of this? Well, I hate to break it to you, but every Bible that any of us have ever read is at the very least a translation of a transcription of the oral tradition, if not translations of translations. Get this, between the time that the stories of Jesus were told and subsequently written down and our current year, there have been approximately 42 generations of language evolution. That's a ton of time for the language we use to evolve. No cap. Now, there are a lot of scholars who spend their whole lives devoted studiously to analyzing and attempting to create the most accurate representation of the Bible from the ancient Greek or the Aramaic, which is a worthy cause of study, if just a little sus. But I posit to you all today that the holiness of the Bible comes not from the veracity or the linguistic rigor of the translation you read, but from the emotional and spiritual impact that the stories, lessons, and morals have on the reader. The Bible isn't holy because it uses the right words, but instead because the word is right for the soul. Or said another way, the divine dad lore is holy riz for your bag. It is undeniable that certain language fits our identity of our soul better than others. The language we use and understand on the most visceral level is both an outgrowth of our lived experience and a reflection of how we are deciding to participate in the society around us. It's no wonder, therefore, that many Christians might feel nostalgia for a particular translation or adaptation of the Bible or its stories that they were exposed to growing up. Totally valid. Some people find beauty and comfort in the directness of the NIV. Some people prefer the formality and tradition of the King James. Maybe you finally understood Jesus' parables when you read The Message, with its extensive use of poetry and imagery. Or maybe you learned about David and Goliath primarily through talking vegetables. Not gonna lie, that was me too. Some of us may even feel called to learn Aramaic, to feel as close as possible to the original oral translation. And as we have seen, some of us vibe with the holy bro as he throws his Uno reverse in the face of the op of ops. Whether you like it, dislike it, or don't even understand it, there is a natural beauty in the way language evolves between generations. And the fact that each generation will connect with different language is a feature and not a bug, and deserves to be treated with respect and grace. Regardless of how we consume or interact with our religion's sacred text, what remains, what matters, is that the stories must connect with who we are as a people, in our heads, in our hearts, and our spirits. Friends, to that end, I encourage you to try a new Bible this week. Pick your favorite story, your favorite parable, and read it through in a Bible translation you've never read before. Maybe even a few different translations. I think you might be surprised just how much the story will come alive for you when you find that language resonates with your soul. It's never too late to discover the word, the divine dad lore, anew. Because as we know here in the UCC, God is still speaking. And that is our W, our good news. Amen.